What's going on, y'all? I want to show you a new plugin from Acustica Audio, and that's Cerise. This is a Neve style channel strip, which you can easily tell by looking at the knobs and looking at the EQ frequencies here. This is free until February 14th, 2021. So they're giving you a lot of time to pick this up for free before a price tag is placed on it. I'll have a link in the description to take you directly to the site to check this out. So this is it's a full featured channel strip and then some. This is more than just preamp, section, EQ, and dynamics. You also have saturation, you have mid side control, and you also have a pan knob as well. So we're going to go over the controls, of course, and then we'll check out how this sounds. This is definitely one that you want to pull out the manual and check out. This isn't something that I looked at and I completely understood everything on here, so I definitely had to pull out the manual for some of these features to make sure I understood just how it works. But starting from the left, you have your input. Below that, you have your input trim. Stereo section, you have a spread for mid and side. You've got pan. Drive is going to activate the preamp. You got your EQ section, 3-band EQ sections. Low and high are shelf, middle is bell, and you've got a button for a narrower EQ here. This turns your EQ on. This turns your compressor on. You got your ratio, filter for the compression detector, wet and dry. This RTG stands for routing. It's going to place the dynamic section before the EQ section in the signal flow. Fast is for a faster attack and release. Your limiter, threshold, your timing for your attack and release controls, and makeup gain. Preamp, you've got a high pass filter, saturation here. This A and B is two different type of saturation modes. A is going to give you saturation in the lows and the low mids, and B is going to give you saturation in the high mids and the highs. The way it's set right now is A, and clicking it sets it to B. And your saturation knob, just drive pre is going to place this drive before the output section, and you've got your output gain here. So in looking at this UI, there's definitely some workflow things here that I question. For example, this drive button activates the preamp, but it's way over here on the left versus being over here on the right with the rest of the preamp section. I don't really understand that. This 8 to 16K in the high shelf here. So this gives you the appearance that it's variable because you can move it in between, but when you let go, it's going to snap to where it's closest to. This is only going to select 8K or 16K, but I just question why they're so far apart. I mean, I'm dragging it. I have to, move my mouse away, a good ways away from that knob. Looking at this, at the midsection here as well, the way the knobs turn just gives you the feel that it's variable when it's really not, but just going to snap to the closest EQ point that it's on. And the gain reduction meter is over here on the left with the input. I don't like that the dynamic section is way over here on the right, and my eyes have to go all the way over to the left to see how much gain reduction I'm doing. Then just one more thing with the UI is that these buttons, when you click on them, take a while to activate and deactivate, which is just it's not what I'm used to. It's kind of odd. It's like a delay. And I guess you could see it here, but you really have to click it yourself to maybe really understand how that feels. Okay, so let's get into how this sounds. I've got a vocal here from Coretta King, and let's reset this. So what I did here was I boosted a little bit of 220 on this vocal, and I added a little bit of 16K. This is an inductor style EQ, and the compressor is a diode bridge compressor, which the Neve compressors were. Let's see. And we'll mess with the saturation here soon, but for now, yeah, we'll leave that out for right now. So yeah, now I'm going to play a little bit of this vocal with, no effects on it, and with, I've got it on. Yeah, it's another odd thing when I bypass and bring it in. Sometimes I'll get a little bit of the vocal like blast through like that. But let's play just the vocal dry, and then I'll bring it in and we'll turn some knobs here.
Ooh, is this love? Ooh, is this love that I'm feeling? Yeah. Is this love? Is this love? Is this love that I'm feeling?
Okay, so I'm bringing in and let's I'm gonna turn these knobs as I play it. We'll add some 220, we'll add some 16K on top. That's what I feel this vocal needs, a little bit in the low mids and a little bit on top.
Ooh, is this love? Ooh, is this love that I'm feeling? Yeah. Is this love? Is this love? Is this love that I'm feeling? Ooh, is this love? Ooh, is this love that I'm feeling? Yeah. Is this love? Is this love? Is this love that I'm feeling? Ooh, is this love? Ooh, is this love that I'm feeling? Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the preamp section. So we'll turn the preamp on, and I've got the texture all the way up to the max. This is the A setting, so this is more lows and low mids.
Ooh, is this love? Ooh, is this love that I'm feeling? Yeah.
And this is setting B with more high mids and highs.
Ooh, is this love? Ooh, is this love that I'm feeling? Yeah.
Okay, so I prefer A for this vocals. We'll go back to that. Now let's bring in the compressor. So the compressor is I don't know, it's odd to me, and I may just not be familiar with the characteristics of dial bridge compressors, but I feel like the compressor has a small window for a sweet spot here at 10 to 12 dB of compression here. I'm not hearing the compression, but even when I'm bypassing it, I'm still not really hearing what the compressor is doing. But there's a small window that when I go a little, where the threshold is set right now, maybe like -10. If I bring it up to like -12, then all of a sudden I'm doing too much compression and I can really hear it. But let's listen to it. Let's see, 4-to-1 ratio. We'll leave the threshold where it is now. I think I'm getting about 10 dB compression here. Medium, slow, attack and release, no makeup gain, and compressor on. And then right now, start routing. Okay, so right now we got the EQ before the dynamics. We'll go ahead and place the dynamics in front of the EQ. Okay, let's give this a listen.
Ooh, is this love? Ooh, is this love that I'm feeling? Yeah. Is this love? Is this love? Is this love that I'm feeling?
I'm going to back off the threshold just a little bit.
Ooh, is this love? Ooh, is this love that I'm feeling? Yeah.
And with the compressor bypassed.
Ooh, is this love? Ooh, is this love that I'm feeling? Yeah. Is this love? Is this love? Is this love
do feel the compressor kind of pumping there a little bit. I'm going to, let's back off just a little bit more, and I'm going to bring the ratio down to 2 to 1.
Ooh, is this love? Ooh, is this love that I'm feeling? Yeah. Is this love? Is this love? Is this love that I'm feeling? Is this love? Is this love? Ooh, is this love that I'm feeling? Ooh, is this love?
So you can hear we're really starting to squash it at negative 18 there. That odd thing about this compressor to me is that I notice when I sweep through the ratios with it playing, like the audio cuts out and sometimes crackles a little. You can see. I'm going to play it and I'm going to sweep the ratio and show you what I'm talking about here.
Ooh, is this love? Ooh, is this love that I'm feeling? Yeah. Is this love? Is this love? Is this love that I'm feeling?
Yeah, so that's pretty annoying. I don't know if that's the behavior for all of their plugins. This is the first Acustica plugin I've tried. That's pretty annoying to sweep through the ratio like that and have that happen. But see if we have any other. It's pretty much all the controls here. So, like I said, this is free until February 14th, 2021. Overall, I really like the EQ section on here. The compressor is like I said, odd to me. The saturation is subtle even at the max, but I do like what it's adding, especially the A setting on this vocal here. And also I want to point out, if you have everything engaged here, the CPU usage on this is kind of high. So we're at showing 9 now. I've seen it up as high as 10 or 11, but bypassing certain section does bring that down a little bit. So keep that in mind as well. But I've got a link in the description if you want to check this out. Any questions, comments, let me know, and I'll catch y'all next time. I want to invite everyone to check out my new podcast, the Faders Up Podcast. It's a podcast about pro audio. I've got me and 3 other Nashville professionals. We're discussing pro audio topics, pro audio lifestyle. And it's available on Apple Podcasts and it's available on Spotify. So check it out, rate it, let me know what you think.